Hey, it's me, March 24th. Welcome to With the Old Man Outdoors. It's hard to bring you any outdoor media when we're all staying home with the pandemic, and we're trying not to spread it so we can flatten out the curve. So here's part two of the story that we left off with about a year ago. Grandpa and Grandma have moved to California, and if you guys are liking this story, then reach on down there below and click that subscribe button, and if you want to know when the next part's coming, then click that little bell next to it for notifications. Thank you. I hope you enjoy.
Tommy, I think you have your timeline wrong.
For those of you that haven't been following my videos, I have 4 sisters. Obviously, I had a mother, and I have a daughter. And they're not always right. So I've checked the various photos that we have of grandmother and grandfather, and when they moved out to California, and they may be correct, because I do remember a summer where my grandfather and grandmother Holland came to visit, and Grandpa Ensman and I took them fishing along with my cousin Mick. So I got to try to figure out what that timeline was, and unfortunately I'll have to admit to my sisters that maybe I was wrong.
I don't care what they say. I'm telling this story. Of course, after I was done fishing with Grandpa, it didn't mean I was done fishing. I had collaborators in the neighborhood, and that would be Marcus and Guy.
We were like a trio of little tiny outlaws.
We came down here fishing, and we noticed that there was baby bullheads in the stream here, and so we took our shirts off and we seined a couple with the shirts tied together, and we used those for bait, and we were fishing out in here. And I can remember Guy had a big northern hook done, and he was battling it, and it was going back and forth out here, and he was hollering for help, and we didn't have a landing net or anything like that. We never really expected that we were going to catch anything. And Marcus was up here messing around trying to get we had a little plastic ice cream pail that we used for a minnow bucket, and I think I went up the hill. I think I had to pee or something like that, and Milton Kohaniuk, the sheriff, came walking down the hill saying, "What are you boys up to?" And he said, "We're fishing." And it was funny as heck, because none of these trees were here at the time, so you could, from the top of the hill, you could see all the way down here to the riverbank. And Guy was down here standing in the water. It might have been a little bit lower than it is now, so I think I remember the bank being out there, but I was little, so it could have been, you know, just a proportion in size. Anyways, guy was battling this northern and he was just racing back and forth and flopping around and splashing, and Marcus was over there messing around with the bullhead minnows, and I was up there talking to the sheriff, and he says, "You having any luck?" And I said, "Well, guy's got a nice one on here, and you know, and other than that, we haven't caught anything." And the sheriff, he just looked at us and shook his head, and then said, "You boys have a good time." And I'm pretty sure that when we walked with our fishing poles through the neighborhood to get down here, someone called the sheriff and said, "Hey, those boys are fishing out of season." We didn't know that there was even anything called a season, much less a fishing license. We had no idea at all that was going on, but I'm pretty sure that that's what happened, because nothing else explains why the sheriff decided, of all places, to come walking down here and check on the boys. So it must have been pretty humorous in his eyes. Years later, when both my parents were retired, my mother and I were sitting one morning on their deck while I was visiting, having a cup of coffee. And I don't know why, but for some reason I asked her, "Why did Grandpa and Grandma move to California anyways?"
My mother said I was going to be an outlaw.
And then she said, "The sheriff came. Well, you need to talk to your dad about this." I was like, "What?" So my father told me that Grandpa got caught by the sheriff shooting ducks with a rifle underneath the dam in International Falls, and his buddy was standing on an island, and in front of me is the island where Grandpa's cohort was standing with the landing net netting ducks as they came downstream after Grandpa shot them. At least that was according to Dad. So Grandpa would sit on the shore right next to the paper mill and shoot the ducks, and they'd float downstream, and the guy'd net them and throw them in a gunny sack. Of course, go back to the gunny sack. And so the sheriff came. Of course, this is what Dad told me, and told him that Grandpa's got to leave town. So that was Dad's part of the story.